Hello and welcome to Weekend Winners. We're going to start this show slightly differently today. Normally at this point I would be teeing up exactly what we're going to be previewing on the show, as well as a reflection of the week that has been in the horse racing world. But sometimes sport feels trivial, and this is certainly one of those times. John Hunt is a colleague and a friend of all of ours here, and what happened to his wife Carol and his daughters Louise and Hannah is beyond comprehension. There is nothing any of us can do to take away the pain that John and his family are currently feeling. All we can do is continue to send our thoughts, love and prayers to John, his family and friends. We will be there for them in every and any way we possibly can, and we will keep them in our thoughts. On behalf of myself, Sam and Dec, our thoughts are with you all. We begin our preview at Newmarket with the Group 1 July Cup, the feature race of the weekend, 3-year-olds and over 6 furlongs. Dec, your fancy for this one?
Yeah, I think anyone who watched the race at Newmarket on Thursday probably saw how well front runners and prominent racers were doing. So I wanted to have a horse that was going to be on the front end, and I thought Regional would go well. Comes here on the back of a career best in the King Gerald's III at Royal Ascot, and I thought he showed good gate speed that day, good early pace before possibly getting a little bit outpaced, maybe suggesting that this kind of sharper 6 furlongs could be tailor-made for him. Just hope the ground dries out, because he's obviously very good on a firmer surface, and in terms of stats and trends, he's a 6-year-old who don't tend to do well, but look, he's clearly in form. His style of racing is going to suit the track, and he comes here off a career best. So yeah, I hope Regional can go close as long as the rain stays away.
That is very much the case, though, for the weather this weekend and exactly what to anticipate. It has felt like a theme of this entire summer so far, but 8-1 about Regional. A nice price for Dec to kick us off, Sam.
Yeah, it is. Fair play, Dec. You've found some potential value. I'm going to go the other way here, straight to the head of the market. This division is crying out for some young blood to come through and really take it by the scruff of the neck. And in previous years, this race has seen 3- and 4-year-olds with a strong record. Inisherin, for me, I thought was just probably a cut above these. I appreciate that the reappearance against Van Dijk came at Haydock, and Van Dijk arguably needed that run, but I was very impressed by that. That came on good to soft ground, and he goes on to win at Royal Ascot in quicker conditions. Means I have no sort of qualms about whatever happens to the ground. I could be quite relaxed about that. Kevin Ryan's been very positive about his chances here. I think the draw will suit, not that it's a massive issue. I just think he ticks so many boxes. I appreciate, what are we, 9-4. It isn't the biggest price in the world, but for me, favourites most likely winner. I did like Millstream. I actually thought that horse ran pretty well at Royal Ascot, but just slightly concerned that the yard haven't really had a winner for a little while. That was kind of my each way dart, but for me, I came back around, and the favourite for me.
Inisherin, we are looking for that sprinter to really grab the sprinting division by the scruff of the neck, and Inisherin might well be that 9-4, but a good shout then for Millstream as well at 12-1 for Sam. I'm going to take on Inisherin. I just wonder if this is going to be a slightly too quick for him over the 6 furlongs, where he took forever to pull up last time out, and I wonder if this is going to be the bare minimum for him rather than Van Dijk, who of course I sided with last time out, so confident about him and what he was going to be able to show on that reappearance start at Haydock. Of course, he was beaten in that, though, quite comprehensively so. The soft ground was blamed somewhat for that performance, but when you go back to his form last season, he was seen very much as a soft ground performer, and the question at the end of the season was how was he going to handle quicker ground when he went to the Middle Park at Newmarket. So that was the question last year, so I don't buy into the theory that soft ground was completely against him then in that. But on this occasion, hopefully he will be able to show his best. He's been saved for this, can reverse that form with Inisherin as well. And Inisherin came into it on the back of 2 runs. So I'm hoping that Van Dijk might just be able to reverse that form then and show his better form from last time out. Do let us know in the comments section below who you fancy for the July Cup. Now, before we move on to our next race, a reminder as ever to please do gamble responsibly. Our tips are not guaranteed to win, but we will still do our best to point you in the right direction. Right, we move on to the 325 at Newmarket now, of course, still on the July course. This is the Group 2 Superlative Stakes for the 2-year-olds over 7 furlongs. Now, Ancient Truth for the boys in blue heads away at 6-4. And Sam, given their record in this race down the years, it makes sense.
Yeah, it's hard to knock Ancient Truth, and that 6-4 for me, I thought looked a fair price, just slightly too skinny for me wanted to take. But I must say that debut run, the form certainly seems to be working out. I tried to look for whatever I fancied to take the favourite on at a bit of a price, and I actually came down on a columnist for the Wathnam Racing guys, and I thought this horse was really, really interesting. The debut at Chester was certainly an impressive win, and then we head to Royal Ascot, where in the Coventry just runs an absolute stormer. It goes off a massive price here, 50-1, and I just felt like this horse definitely, winner comes from the other side, and I do think you probably did want to be low when you look at the finish here, but this horse for me, going up in trip is really curious. The page of the horse would actually suggest that a shorter trip would be his optimum, but when you actually go through it, I think watching this race back and the way he's staying on at the death, I definitely think going another furlong is going to be well within his compass, and I felt like that sort of 6-1-ish kind of price was a bad each way bet in a race where I think the favourite is going to be hard to beat, but potentially hasn't quite run in the strongest of races compared to a few of them in here.
Yeah, it's trying to weigh up the form from lightly raced individuals, Deck, at this stage, isn't it? And Sam has made the case there that Columnist has at least proven that to a large extent so far and has faced some quite stern tests. Rather than Ancient Truth, perhaps you could throw that stone at him?
Yeah, no, absolutely, I'd agree. I think probably the strongest piece of form in the race does come from Columnist. So, 6-1 I thought was a fair bet. I was just a little bit worried about him going up in trip. I didn't want to be with Ancient Truth at that price for all he's a likeable, straightforward and professional 2-year-old. And I just went a little bit further down the betting, and I fancy Pentel Bay. Now, he's a hold-up performer, and kind of given what we said about the July Cup and how the track was riding at Newmarket on Thursday, his style is a little bit of a worry, so I hope Billy Knocknan will just be a little bit wise to that. But I was so impressed with this guy when he won at Leicester on his debut. He overcame a bit of a pace by his poor track position and showed a great attitude. And this day, while he was well beaten by what possibly is a complete freak 2-year-old in Bedtime Story, I thought he ran a cracker in the Chesham, and you could probably just upgrade the form a little bit because he got stuck in traffic there from maybe kind of the 3-pole to the 2-pole and just needed an out, but he was running on really strongly. And I always think it's really hard for any horse, especially a 2-year-old, to go from a maiden or a novice straight into pattern company, but he acquitted himself well, and he's probably not going to have a freak of nature to deal with like Bedtime Story in this race. So I just thought Pentel Bay was maybe the one at the prices for me, but it's a really competitive race, isn't it?
Very much so. I'm with Ancient Truth in here. I just hope that he can go 3 from 3 now in his career, remain unbeaten. Of course, he's proven himself twice at Newmarket on the 2 different courses, though, and last time out on the July course. So he should have no problem with the track configuration, with that success over this course and distance, taking a big step forwards from his debut, greenness-wise as well, which was really likeable to see. And he just visually looked very impressive. So we talk about the form then that Charlie Appleby and Godolphin have in this race. Hopefully it will be another winner with Ancient Truth, who, of course, there's some big boots to have to fill, because the novice he won last time out was won by Ancient Wisdom last year. He then went on to win the Autumn Stakes and the Futurity, and won earlier on in the week at Newmarket as well. So Ancient Truth, he's got some big boots to fill. Hopefully he will be able to do so in the Superlative Stakes. But some differing opinions there. Now we're going to move over to Ascot for the 220, the Group 2 Summer Mile, 4-year-olds and over 1 mile. But probably most notably and importantly for this race, it is on the round course. So Coudoir, 2-1 favourite, Sonny Liston, Deck. Will he be able to translate his handicap form to the round course and group company? Yeah,
I hope so. I don't think there's absolutely any doubt that he's good enough to win this race. I think I'd probably argue he's got the strongest form in the race. He ran an absolute cracker in the Hunt Cup off a huge weight and a huge rating, and that single piece of form, I think, is the best piece of form in the race. Now, obviously, the round course and probably a switch in pace is definitely a worry, no doubt about it. But I'd hope the first time Visored, maybe Epictetus will go forward. Sparks Fly won't be too far away. I'd love if Ancient Rome was ridden like he was ridden the last day, because he'll put a lot of pace into the race. I just think pace is a big help to Sonny Liston. If he gets it, he'll go close. He's a quality horse. Again, he's another horse that I hope the rain stays away for, because I think the better the ground, the better his chance. And I have a lot of respect for the favourite, Quidwa, who's unbeaten in 3. But he's another horse who, probably a really strongly run stiff mile will suit as well. And he's not going to get maybe the ideal pace scenario here either. So at a bigger price given, I thought Sonny Liston had the best form on offer. I'm going to side with the Rafe Beckett inmate.
Yeah, he hasn't earned that lofty rating just by chance, has he? He's proven it time and time again now. So Sonny Liston, well worth his place in group company now. Sam, Dex with him. Are you?
Sonny Liston was sort of my head of those towards the front of the betting, but the more I looked at it, the more open I felt it was. You can definitely really make strong claims for Kadara. I can see why people would even be taking that 2-1. But for me, I liked him Besto as well. The guys have managed to squeeze it onto the graphic. Beshtani for me. I really like this horse, and people might remember that I tipped this as our Royal Ascot preview, and we're going to watch the VT here of him getting absolutely butchered when travelling reasonably well. I don't necessarily think he was going to win this day, but I definitely think he'd have ended up a lot further than the 20th or 22nd or something like that he ends up at Ascot. Prior to this run, we saw him at Epsom, and he was just touched off there. As far as I'm concerned, if you can handle Epsom, I'm not too concerned about the round course at Ascot. And that was on good to soft ground as well. So if there's any more rain, we'll be absolutely fine. But yeah, it was travelling really nicely here and then just gets caught between a couple of horses, and that really does for his chances. But I was very taken with it. He went off a short price this day, I think about 13-2. He's going to need to step forward again, but I think he's got the profile of a horse he can. He was a 3-time winner from a handful of starts in France, and definitely for me, I've got claims to think that 20-1 is just too big a price, and he'll be an each-way dart in a really competitive race.
Yeah, 20-1, but you did tee him up then for Royal Ascot, and we're watching that back here now. And as you say, he has run better than I guess than it necessarily looks just on paper then. So happy to side with Beshtani again, especially when he's a 20-1 shot in a race of this nature. Again, I'm being quite unoriginal in this one because it's going to be Coudoir for me. I did a 180 with this race. When I was initially looking at it, I was in agreement with you, Dec, where I thought, well, Sonny Liston's very much the horse to beat. But then, of course, realising it was on the round course. Now, Coudoir, he is going to have his own work cut out on the round course, as you said, Dec, as well, because I just hope he's positioned pretty prominently, but of course he might be inconvenienced by his wide draw. He is in 8 of 9. But if he can go forwards, get himself just off of that inside rail, especially if the rain is around, then that's very often the place to be. And then to be able to slingshot into the home straight and play Catch Me If You Can, hopefully Coudoir can. I know he's got to prove himself on official ratings against Sonny Liston to bring himself up to that level, but he has only been raced 3 times in his career, so he's got every opportunity to be able to do so, and hopefully it will now come in group company. Coudoir for me. Sam is going to be with Beshtani and Sonny Liston for Dec. Right, we head up to York now for the 3:10. This is for the John Smith's Cup Handicap Stakes, a heritage handicap for 3-year-olds and over 10 furlongs. As competitive a renewal as ever. 11-2 the field in this one, Sam. So I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, I think in my notes I wrote from the 21 runners, I had a short list of 10, which isn't much of a short list, is it, Kate? And we'll be here all day if I try and rattle through them. But Botanical was where I sort of ended up coming down. Roger Varian's ticking over really nicely at the moment. This horse, if you go back to his penultimate start, was a good winner of a York handicap and needs to come forward from that to claim this. But I think you can forgive the run last time out. I think the ground's going to be perfect up at York today for this horse. And there's so much to like. Looking at Roger's pattern, he won the handicap with UAE Prince, who then went on to run in this race and was sent off 7-2 favourite. And there's actually quite a few horses that have won the race that he won at York before then progressing to run in this John Smith's race. And I've just got a feeling that could be better than I think we've seen last time out. I'm happy to forgive him that run. I think he'll go well. Interesting, PGA McDonald's booked to rights this busy Saturday of racing, isn't it? And he's only ridden once for Roger ever, as far as I could see. So I think it's a nice booking for him. And I'd be disappointed if he can't make the frame. I think that slightly easier ground would be just ideal for him. And I still think there's a bit of juice there in his mark.
Yes, and potentially then in his price as well, 13-2 for Botanical. But just on that, Sam, and of course with how busy this Saturday is, you know, it's been dubbed Super Saturday, and how tricky that must be for trainers to be trying to get best available. But of course they are at a significant disadvantage then. If they're an ever so small yard, Roger Varian obviously doesn't have that. PJ McDonald, a cracking jockey to have booked, but it does make it more challenging.
Yeah, I imagine this is jockey's agent's Christmas, isn't it? Something like that. But no, it's a challenge. Listen, we'll see how the premierisation works, and I appreciate there's lots of views on that. But for me, just focusing on this race, Botanical was really where I came down. But you can make cases for all of them. I'm looking forward to seeing who Deck's tipping.
Deck, who do you fancy then?
Yeah, 22 runners, competitive handicap. I didn't see an awful lot of pace in here, despite the big field, and I thought maybe hold-up horses could struggle, especially if they were drawn wide, because that first bend kind of comes up quite quickly there, doesn't it? And I just wanted a horse who would go forward, and I thought Ramad for the William Haggis team would push into a nice prominent position and just have a proper crack at the race. He's got some smart 2-year-old form, this guy, and he made a lovely comeback at the start of the season in the Sandown Classic trial in a race that I thought, it's mixed signals from the form, but I thought he ran very well. He then went back to Sandown for the Heron Stakes on what was borderline heavy ground, and I don't think that suited with him. And on the day I was actually really disappointed with him, but the race has worked out pretty well. Kaluki's boosted the form, and I just don't think that heavy ground really suited him. So I think maybe getting back up to 10 on some nicer ground and onto a flatter track, if Harry Davis can get him into a nice rhythm and get him settled in the first time tongue tie, I think he can go well for the Haggis team. He's a 3-year-old. There's been a while now since we've had a 3-year-old winner of this race, but in general it's probably harder for the 3-year-olds to get into a race like this. But this is a good time of year in terms of weight for age for 3-year-olds taking on their elders. So at a big price, he's not even on the graphic there. I think he's 25 to 1. I thought it was worth giving him one more chance, given he looked at a smart horse at Sandown at the start of the season.
Yeah, like I say, he hasn't made the graphic, but he is 20 to 1 though. But I see you're 20 to 1. I'm going 25 to 1 about my own selection in here, and that is Kingfisher King. Now, the reason why he's probably been readily dismissed in the market is because he is making his reappearance start. But I actually like the fact that he's making his reappearance. 3 of the last 4 winners of this race were also making their reappearance start. Anne Martin 2022, Johnny Drama in 21, Sinjari in 2020. So an angle I do really like, and this lad, he remains very lightly raced still, just 5 runs to his name, a winner of just his second start in a Salisbury maiden, which he was subsequently gelded after, and just 2 starts and handicaps, including at this track over a mile 6 when last seen, when stepping up markedly in trip. He just plugged on, but it was a bit of a laboured effort, down £1, down in trip to 10 furlongs. Hopefully he should have more to offer going forwards then, and a horse that I don't want to be dismissing at a big price of 25 to 1. That is Kingfisher King. So again, disagreement there in the John Smith's Cup Heritage Handicap. Right, we're switching now over to Longchamp for an evening card. Now at 7:17, the Group 1 Grand Prix de Paris for the 3-year-olds, no geldings, over 1 mile 4 comes up. So of course, again, live on Sky Sports Racing on Saturday. We have a potential art contender in here as well, Deck.
Yeah, in Delius, yeah, I'm sure there's lots of trainers in here and owners who'd hope they've got an art contender. Yeah, I just thought he's really interesting. I think he's unbeaten in 3 for the Jean-Claude Rouget yard, and he's just progressed with every run. Illinois sets an okay standard. I wouldn't say he's a world beater. I certainly wouldn't have Illinois in my mind at the moment for a race like the Arc. But the Jean-Claude Rouget team have probably been a little bit slow this year. Obviously sending regards to Jean-Claude, because I don't think he's in the best of health at the moment. But last week was a bit of a renaissance. They had a 1-2 in the big race in France there, the Prix Jean Prat. And, maybe it's just the case that they haven't got the horses this year. But this guy looks a potential Group 1 performer. I think, he's probably as I'm surprised he's a little bit short as 9-4, because he does have to step up again. But he's very likeable, as I said, unbeaten in 3, and he comes from a top yard. So yeah, looking forward to seeing this race, which is obviously on Sky Sports Racing on Saturday.
Yes, really looking forward to it. And Delis, I mean, he's going to be fascinating to see in his own right in this race. But of course, for the Arc, he's currently a 12-1 shot with Bet Victor as well. So even with this race being fantastic in its own right, throwing it forward, Sam, and what we might expect to see from a few of these contenders towards the back end of the season, this just adds an extra layer towards that.
Yeah, I do love the Arc. I must say it's my favourite flat race of the season. But Dex poured a little bit of cold water on my shout for Illinois, because I really fancied him here. But interesting going back down in trip, having won the Queen's Vase over 1 mile 6, and just hope the weather in France is better than it is here. We get some slightly quicker ground. But I thought the Lingfield Derby trial, I saw that horse in the flesh with that effort, and I just must say, like, I think the form has stacked up okay when you think Ambiente Frente went on to run so well in the Derby, and then I know form got reversed in the Irish Derby, but I still feel like there's enough of a yardstick there for this horse to be warranting. Where is he? 11-4 in the betting. It's probably not an Arc horse necessarily, but I do really think he can at least give the favourite here something to think about. Has travelled over as well to France previously and run well, shows he can travel, which I think is always a key thing. And Christian Soumillon's booked to ride, which is never a bad thing.
Definitely never a bad thing whatsoever. Yeah, Illinois, I mean, he did myself and a fair few people a turn in the Queen's Vase for sure. So a horse that I've got a lot of time for. But I'm fascinated what Tamfana can do in here. Currently a 5-1 shot, taking on the boys, because do I think the 3-year-old fillies are better than the 3-year-old colts? Probably not. Do I think that either are a vintage crop? Probably not. But with the allowances, as judged on what Tamfana has done already this season, she's right up there with the boys on ratings. So hopefully this step up in trip will only unlock more for her. And Tamfana, if she proves herself here, that's going to open up any amount of doors for her going forwards for the rest of the season, and potentially the Arc itself. That was a look ahead to the Grand Prix de Paris, but now it's time to head over to the soft set to give you our best bets for the weekend. Of course, it's a busy weekend of action with meetings left, right and centre on Saturday. So we're trying to nail down our best bets for this weekend. And Dec, you're up first.
Yes, the 3 horses that are going to make the graphic this week, we've discussed already in the show. The Nap is going to be regional in the July Cup. I think anyone who watched the racing at Newmarket on Thursday saw how prominent races and front runs were doing. So I think that the tracking is really going to suit him. Going back up to 6 on a sharper type of 6 will suit him as well. And I just hope the rain stays away, because he's obviously a better horse on the top of the ground. I hope the rain stays away also for Sonny Liston in the Summer Mile, because he's a horse better on top of the ground as well. I hope there's a bit of pace in there for him to run at as well. But I think on all the form in that race, he's definitely got the strongest form. So you could maybe argue that he should be fav. But we'll see. And then the long shot's going to be a Ramad in the John Smith's Cup up at York. I just think the market's forgotten about him, hoping the first time tongue tie works. He started the season really well in the Classic Trial at Sandown, and then the Heron Stakes on what was probably borderline heavy ground maybe didn't suit him. So getting back on a firmer surface into handicap company as a 3-year-old, I hope he can outrun his price.
18-1 then for the long shot Ramad, and good cases made again there for all 3 of those for Dec's best bets. Sam, where were you looking?
Yeah, the Nap comes in the big race. I'd say it's on Saturday, which is the July Cup, of course. Inisherin, if I really fancy him to confirm that form of Van Dijk from Haydock, I really think he's got to be a Nap, hasn't he? When he's the second favourite in the market, and again, not going to be too put off if we get any rain at Newmarket, given he's won on good to soft. So I really felt Kevin Ryan's horse has got an outstanding chance, can stamp some authority on that sprinting division and hopefully give us a new superstar to follow. My next best, Botanical, Roger Varian's operating at around a 25% strike rate. The form of this horse's win at York on his penultimate start, I think, looks okay. More importantly, I think Roger's record in the race is pretty good. He won it back in 2014, I think. And this race that he won 2 starts ago, Botanical has been used as a springboard by many to at least run respectably in the race. 13-2 looks fair. I wouldn't want to take any shorter, but that's kind of the nice price at the moment. And then I'm going for the long shot, be my old pal Bestani, who I feel was really given an unfair passage, I think it's fair to say, at Royal Ascot last time out. I think the Epsom form looks fair. Will need to take another step forward in this kind of company, but certainly looks like he has the profile to me that there could just be a little bit more to come. No concerns about him going around the bend.
I'm glad that both of you have backed up what you were talking about over at the Sky Pad there in terms of selections for races and put them into your best bets as well. 20-1 long shot then for Sam. Now, my own best bets of this weekend, because the horse that I made the case for earlier on was Ancient Truth. Now, he goes in the Group 2 Superlative Stakes over the 7 furlongs. He is at the head of the market, but hopefully he can go 3 from 3 in his career with another success over this course and distance, as he showed last time out when taking a big step forwards from his debut. And we know that Connections have done really well in this race in the past also. Now, Coudoir is going to be my next best bet. I know he's a 2-1 shot in the Summer Mile, but hopefully the round course won't inconvenience him whatsoever and he can prove himself up to this grade and defy that quite wide draw as well. Now, my long shot comes in a race that we haven't discussed at 16-1. This is Darkness, who goes in the Bunbury Heritage Handicap again over the 7 furlongs at Newmarket at 4 o'clock. And hopefully he can just back up his course and distance success from last time out, where he did love the quick ground, admittedly. He may not have that this time around, but I thought he may just have been turned around quickly under a penalty. He wasn't, as it turned out. 16 days off, now a £6 higher mark, but he was so impressive last time out, and the RPR that he ran to would suggest that there's still more mileage in this mark of 91. The time of that race was also fast by 0.32 seconds, so he's a tricky horse to predict and to get right, but he has backed up his success in the past with another good run on his next start. So hopefully everything is there for him once more to run another big race and to outrun that price of 16-1. Right, that's everything from us on this week's show. So a big thank you to Dec and Sam for all of their hard work as per usual. A big thank you to you at home for watching. We'll be back at the same time next week to preview Newbury's Super Sprint Day as well as the Irish Oaks.